Let's talk about the process of development and where the ideas come from. Let's start on the other end this time with Jason, because I think people in the audience of any of these events that we hold, they're interested in knowing if it's at all possible for them to come up with an idea and actually score get a meeting or actually get the thing done or whatever. I mean, right. Do you take, what's the wide variety, if there is a wide variety, of sources for story ideas? Are they just basically people who already have experience in television? Is that the only people you listen to?
We have an incredibly strong development department at Animal Planet. Mm-hmm. Charlie Foley, who runs it, is an incredibly creative person. So I think possibly more than other networks, a lot of our ideas are derived internally. Mm-hmm. And then we will take them out to a production company that we think has the chops to be able to produce that type of a show. Okay. But for the most part, it's production companies coming into us. Mm-hmm. I meet people at conferences and film festivals all the time who are kind of an individual who have an idea. Mm-hmm. And I tell them it's going to be really, really hard to get in the door unless you're attached to a production company. Mm-hmm. Somebody who we as a network trust can put together an immense project, manage a budget, manage a schedule, exactly. Get us a product that fits our brand, and be collaborative the whole time.
Okay. Tony Horn, where do your ideas come from?
Well, pretty much the same as Jason. So we have, agents will bring in production companies, individuals will come in sometimes. Mm-hmm. As Jason's saying, they often will have to get paired with a production company that we know of that has a track record, because if we start going down the road with somebody who doesn't, it can be a disaster sometimes. The ideas come from, a pretty wide variety of places, but mainly from the agents and the bigger production companies who aggregate smaller people. It's, sort of a food chain kind of thing that filters out some of the ideas.
Jennifer Lopez is listed as the executive producer of one of your shows, the one called South Beach Tow, about the auto repossessions in Miami Beach. Do I get that right?
Yeah.
Did that mean you wind up working with J-Lo on a tow truck show?
J-Lo lends her name to some of the marketing, but she really does not.
You don't hear from her, hey, Tony.
She's a good shooter.
I think she might have tweeted once about a year and a half ago, and that's about it.
And while we're talking to you, and we talked about this before the session began, but I am interested that on the list of programs that I found, there are 3 of these car repossession tow truck shows. And the reason I point that out is I'm continually fascinated by reality TV and, like in the storage unit space, deriving television shows out of what I would have previously thought were just ordinary activities, that might not be interesting. You have 3 of the shows now. Again, explain them, please.
Well,
it's Lizard Lick Towing, South Beach Tow, and Operation Repo.
Yeah.
Which has been around for a while.
That one's been around for a long time, yeah. Well, I'm not going to get into, I'll answer your question just broadly. I think that it's a question of just like I said about Hardcore Pawn, it's great character, and these guys probably, I think, would agree. Great character in with some conflict in a setting, and for us that seems to work. The towing thing, it's again, we have a male audience that likes to see a lot of rumbling.
Well, there's a lot of fighting.
Yeah, there's a lot of fighting. So, people get their car, they're going to be pissed off. So there's a lot of very upset people.
Apparently that is
but again, I think each of those shows has some very good characters. It's not, we couldn't do it with just any old people we found. South Beach has got a great female character, I think it's going to hit pretty soon. And she's great, and she carries the show when she's featured in it. And she's got to go out in a beautiful city, Miami, and ruin people's days.
Well, they should have paid. They should have.
Well, they parked in the wrong place sometimes.
Exactly. So reality TV taking on many forms. Jackie, are the shows at MTV generally developed in-house, or the ideas come up with in-house? Or are you taking meetings with outsiders who say, "I've got a great show about pregnant 16-year-olds"?
It's funny you bring that one up. That actually was an in-house an idea, but generally it's the same as these guys. But 16 and Pregnant was actually an idea of a West Coast development executive. So that's amazing, and it was developed in-house, and then they hired a producer to run it. But we do sometimes come up with ideas internally, and then go find a producer or a production company to to produce it, but generally, yeah, ideas will come in from a production company or an agent. It is very difficult, just as an individual who's not represented by an agent or who's not working through a production company, it's really difficult to get in, because then you'd be talking to everybody.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and-
I mean, are you
and
getting
you can't.
letters and pitches anyway from the outer public?
Oh, yeah, people
Yeah.
read credits.
Oh, okay,
They read the
yes,
credits, and then they
exactly,
just
okay.
send you they figure out your email address, and they send, yeah.
Do you, off the top of your head, could you tell us a very unusual, if not the most unusual idea you ever heard of for a show?
I don't think oh gosh, it would take some time to think of the most unusual, but just one that comes to mind right now is somebody pitched an idea of starring her, which, by the way, don't pitch shows starring yourself, because that generally doesn't fly. My friends and I were so much fun, you should see us on Friday nights. We get that a lot, but you know, she pitched it was an idea where she would kind of go across country with her friends looking for love.
Oh.
Which, if you're I don't know, J-Lo going cross country looking for love, maybe that's something. But if you're just sort of, you know, me going cross country looking for
Rejecting.
love, that doesn't
That
really.
wasn't
that's
anyone
not
in
true.
this
It doesn't
audience,
fly.
was it?
Exactly.
Nobody wasn't in this.
No, it wasn't.
Someone's shooting daggers.
Drew, what about A&E? Where do all these ideas come from?
I'd say most of them actually come from outside.
Oh, they do, okay.
Most of them come from outside. It's every network's goal to be like Jason, be like, we develop most of our stuff internally, and we get so caught up, I think, with our production that it's like we rely so heavily on the ideas that come in.
Yeah,
And of
and we don't do most of our stuff, but there's a big portion of it internally.
It's great because then you have so much more.
Control.
It's something. It's
Yeah.
something that came from you and you're passionate about it and everything else, and it's great. But I mean, for us, I think the realistic thing is that it's the same as everybody else, where it's like productions companies come in, agents bring people in, and you hear an idea, and like 99% of the time, it's not right the way it is. It's got to be
Yeah.
made into something that works for your brand and your
Yeah.
network. So
Yeah, I think that's the most important point to make, that if you have an idea and you get hooked up with a production company, or you turn on someone at a network to pair you with a production company, you've got to be ready to completely remake your idea, you know, over and over and over again until it fits the network that you brought it to.
I see, okay.
And just to interrupt, VH1 does a lot of internal development, now that I think about it. They come up with a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
They do. They have a lot of shows that come and go. I can't keep track of most of them at this point.